Hello and welcome to Smaulgld, another episode of the Smaulgld Subscribers Sound Off series episode. And today I have with me a first-time guest, Cardwell Lynch of the C Sigma Show. How are you doing today?
Good morning, good morning.
All right. And you're coming to us from?
Sydney, Australia. I moved a couple years ago from LA down to Sydney.
And I detect an American accent, and you should be saying good day by now, not good morning.
Yeah, good day, right? Hey. The twang, good day, mate.
Ah, you got it. So, Cardwell, before we get started, we got a lot to talk about today in the gold, silver, and crypto space. Can you just give us a brief background on your interest in these subjects and tell us a bit about where we can find you in the C Sigma Show?
Yeah, I think I first got into, well, I guess we started in gold and silver. At post, I guess they call it down here the GFC. Everybody was in housing, I'm in LA. A little house I bought for, 350 went up to like, 600 and then 1,000 and down to 225. And I was like, how did I fall for this mess? Start learning about, gold, silver, the central banking, the whole, I guess our little genre of, alt-righty or, just that space of, trying to figure out what's going on. And I started buying gold and silver. And then Brother John F. started talking about Bitcoin. And at that point, I was like, why would I trust a fiat currency now to go trust a digital fiat currency? So I didn't immediately get into Bitcoin. And, like a year later, it was still around. And then, finally got in on the original 300 of Bitcoin. Had still been buying, gold and silver just because, it's a good plan A. And, started buying Bitcoin at 300. Literally sold at the top of before Mount Gox rolled over, which is, weird that I caught that top almost to the day. And
that was about $1,000 at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was like, because obviously we're kind of in the gold. I was like, oh man, just let it hit 1-to-1. I'm gonna sell this thing, and just please, like, come on, get the 1-to-1. And I go, you know what? It's not gonna get there. It was like 1,100 or something, and I, bought an ounce of gold with it, and left it for a couple of years because it, rolled back down to like whatever 100, 200, and 2015 kind of started up again at the next 250, 300. So ever since then, I've been kind of rolling around the crypto space.
Now, it's interesting, but there is some deep divisions in the gold and silver community, either totally against Bitcoin or just have nothing to do with it. And I know you mentioned Brother John F. Now, I was unaware, but I found out in recent years that he was probably the first person in the gold and silver space that was not just looking at Bitcoin, but directly advocating for it. About what time it must have been 2012, 13?
Yep. He, because he had his Brother John F. Silver channel, which I watched religiously. And then he started doing his Bitcoin channel. And I can't remember if it was $10 or $100, but obviously that's way early.
Right.
And I just, obviously being new to hard money and sound money, I couldn't wrap my little newbie head around.
Right.
Like you're telling me not to trust this, fiat, based, unbacked, central bank coin fed thing. And now you're telling me to trust this computer unbacked thing, so I just wasn't ready. And that's probably a thing about crypto. When you're not ready, then you just can't get it until you just get it and you're ready to roll into it. But yeah, he was early. He was way early.
I looked at it. I was early, and I was very much against it. I looked at it and I said, I don't get the point. They said, well, you can use it to buy this or that. And I said, but I can already use dollars or a credit card to buy this or that. What do I need this for? And I read all the documents and I listened to it. And I just said to myself, well, it's just another form of unbacked currency. So I had no use for it. What changed my mind was just the fact that so many people wanted to believe in it and gave it that value and gave it that price. But what really tipped me over the edge to giving it a second look was when, it was about over a year ago, when India just decided on a whim, or for whatever reason, they were going to recall the rupees overnight. And I said to myself, well, that's a fiat currency, but one thing that Bitcoin, you can't just recall them overnight. And I started to think to myself, do I want an unbacked currency by a government where they can print as much as they want and they can recall it whenever they want? Or if people are going to give value to a private currency where they can't do that, well, maybe there's something to it. That's what got me, not on the Bitcoin train, but starting to accept it, not because I would have chosen that type of currency, but because I saw that other people were, by consensus, giving it that value. And who am I to deny people their value proposition? In other words, they're looking at it. They see the value in it. They want to hold it. They want to trade it. It wouldn't be what I picked, but, you know. So 2017, now since you've been involved in this since way before 2017, can you give us an overview of what you saw in 2017, not just in the Bitcoin space, but then in the altcoins and the ICOs?
Yeah, it's 2017 was, I mean, a year ago from, I say today, I might have only owned just Bitcoin. And, you know, I'd heard of Ethereum, I'd heard of Litecoin, but even then, I was like, I don't know what these are for, what, you know, why. You know, I don't know. I know about this one because everybody's talking about this one. And somehow, you know, as the space grew and YouTubers started, you know, talking about it more, because I'm just trying to learn all I can about Bitcoin, they started talking about these other things and bringing other people on their shows. I think in February or late January, I'd heard of Dash from a guy I used to watch, Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, and he brought their little spokesperson, Amanda B. Johnson on. And I'm like, well, that sounds cool. I'll buy a little bit of that. It's only like $15. And it's kind of like once you open up the other rabbit holes, you know, start going down them, you start learning about the other ones. They bring on other guests, and you know, Dash went up, and I was like, holy cow, it's almost pretty much par with Ethereum. I better get out of this Dash thing. It might be cool at the end of the year. Little did I know.
By the way, for our listeners, Dash is now at $1,100 or something like that.
Exactly. And, you know, I was getting it like under 20. And I was just like, oh, you know, I'll go have some of these. And so I guess once you start learning about one, learn about the next one, and, you know, you talk to other people in the space, and they start talking about, you know, the next one, and it exploded when the ICO things. I think it took me a couple months to get on the ICO thing because I didn't even know what ICO meant.
Right.
And, you know, I didn't take the minute to Google it, and probably still wouldn't have understood it, but at some point it clicked. And, you know, once the ICO boom went, you know, Ethereum boomed, and all these other just, you know, crypto or blockchain companies start building on Ethereum. And, you know, months later, you're all, you know, it feels like you're headed towards, you know, expert, because all of a sudden you're in like every ICO and you're reading white papers that, you know, 3 months ago you never, you know, didn't even know what a white paper was. So yeah, 2017 just blew up, and, you know, it was a chance to get on some really interesting, groundbreaking companies at pennies that are now worth thousands, you know, of dollars or whatever currency. So it's 2017 was ridiculous.
Yeah, so 2017 was, I guess, a learning experience for everyone. You just get used to understanding Bitcoin, and next thing you know, there's Dash, and there's Ethereum, and there's altcoins, and then you get hit with ICOs, and you got to figure out what they are. Now, looking forward to 2018, one of the things I noticed at the end of 2017 was people are starting to get used to a certain group of cryptocurrencies, whether they were Litecoin, Dash, Bitcoin Cash, Bcash, as it were, Zcash. People were getting used to the cryptocurrency, Monero. And then the ICOs came out, and people got used to a group of those, Populous and Veritasium. And then what happened at the very end of the year, something very, very curious, we saw the rise of the centralized currencies like Ripple, ones that had supplies in the billions. And we were used to seeing these cryptocurrencies with a small supply, Bitcoin being 21, Litecoin 84, Dash less, and so on. And then all of a sudden we saw the rise of Ripple, non-mineable coins, Tron, Cardano, Stellar, things that are in the pennies. And at the very end of the year, they all rocketed up within a week or so, some 5, 10x. And what do you make of that? Where do you see that happening? It seems like people decided, oh, if something's $23, I don't care if it has a market cap of $50 billion, $60 billion. I'd rather buy that than one or a half or a fraction of a Bitcoin or a Litecoin or Ethereum. What do you make of that, and how do you see that shaping out in 2018?
No, it's part of those, or some of those, crypto or blockchain companies are, they're, what do you say, a platform. So it seems like, okay, maybe they need that many billions of tokens to operate because, they want a global system where things are fast. And, I get why there's a billion of them. But say like when basically Tron gave away tokens, I looked them up and I was thinking, I was like, I don't know how this is ever going to get past, a penny or something. So, it's crazy that all of a sudden like Tron goes through the roof. But I guess it's all like a network effect. If everybody starts using something, if it's like, Bitcoin, as some people call it, a messaging app, if everybody's using that messaging app, then that makes that system worth something.
Well, but do you think, if you look at Ripple, there's 38 billion of them. They gave out 1,000 to people who just gave out an email. And supposedly it's a banker coin. Bernanke endorsed it. It's a company. It has funding from the CME group, who in turn have also funded Tron. No one's using these coins. In fact, no bank uses the Ripple coin, and yet it's gone from 20 some odd cents to over $3, almost $4 at the end of the year. Do you see that continuing in 2018? Are people going to wake up and say, we're already in an area that has risen so fast, so quickly, but at least people who bought Bitcoin knew what it was, and they had researched it, and they would tell you about it. But I don't think anyone can tell you what Tron or Cardano or Stellar or any of these other altcoins that are actually centralized coins that they're not mineable. They're basically just out there with large corporate backing and large numbers of coins, and they've just gone up basically just because people have the fear of missing out.
Yeah, there you go. I was about to say, you get the last 2 or 3 months, you had a lot of people. Bitcoin hit 10,000. It was right around Thanksgiving, and I guess the adage was going that people got back to wherever they were on Thanksgiving, talking about how much wealth or money or whatever you want to call it, crypto they made, and everybody signed up for Coinbase. And then instead of looking at a $10,000 coin, they start looking around for what's a penny, what's 2 pennies.
Right.
Ripple's near the top, and perhaps once it started to run, that FOMO kind of really creeped up, and everybody who'd been watching Ripple at 20 cents, like I was just too lazy to set up a Ripple client to buy it. I knew I literally told myself, oh, it'll be $1 at the end of the year, and just didn't take the 5 minutes to find a Ripple wallet to install on my laptop to put it in. That's all. Or even just sign up for an exchange that held it. I was just lazy, and I just didn't, I still don't own any. Actually, I bought some in 2013, 2012, and forgot, just the wallet disappeared. 2 laptops later, the company Swap went out of bit or moved to Europe, and I just, whatever, it was worth like, sub pennies, and I didn't care. So, I lost a bunch. But yeah, that FOMO is really big in crypto. Plus, with all the new people that come in, they see that and they just, oh, what about Ripple, and they just get it and buy it, and a lot of people don't know better.
Well, it sounds like almost not knowing better is helpful when you're in a bubble, because if you were to look at the fundamentals, which they're very little, is in many of these coins, many of these ICOs, they're utterly of no value, except you do know that the mentality is people are going to buy anything that looks like it's a certain price, it looks like it's a bargain, it looks like it's cheap, and it's going to go up. But the use case for Ripple right now isn't there, but you somehow knew when it was 25 cents that it was going to go to $1. And you almost knew it was going to go to $2 or $3 or $4. And people aren't looking at market caps, because I'm looking right now at the Ripple market cap. It's 118 billion. Earlier in the week, it was like 140 billion, 150 billion. You've got Tron worth 18,
Yeah.
20 billion dollars. And you have to ask why.
Yeah,
Why?
even
Well,
yeah.
yeah, well, Stellar too, and you say, well, because it's 62 cents. So people think that's cheap, not realizing that Stellar has 17 billion coins, Tron has
Yep.
65 billion, Ripple has 38 billion, and the whole idea of crypto, in some respects, to me, wasn't it? They were limited in supply, they were decentralized, and here you have these other things coming along. They're 100% centralized, and they're in almost unlimited supply. So do you see people continuing to rush into these? How high could you boost these coins?
Yeah, that's the thing. When somebody mentioned Stellar to me a couple months ago at maybe 8 cents or something, I go, "Wow, there's a whatever billion." I'm like, that can't get to $1. It's just it's you just can't have one whatever 2, 3, 8 billion tokens and it go to like $10. Like I'm looking for something that's going to go like to 5,000 each, and that won't be it. And still Stellar moved and Ripple moved. It's a lot of people say a lot of these coins and tokens won't be around in a year or two, or maybe they'll pump up and ultimately dump back to where they kind of should be, where if you have a billion of them, it has to be like a cent or 5 cents or 3 cents or someone tenth of a cent. It's kind of unexplainable at this moment of with these valuations and what these price movements are. It's just crazy right now. A lot of money's coming in.
Yeah, money's coming in. My guess is that what'll happen is somehow they'll figure out the values relative to each other. I think it's very hard to figure out values of any of them, but it seems inconceivable to me that you have coins that have this many billions out there and the others are in such limited supply, and just the fact that they're 12 cents, 18 cents, they still have massive market caps that I find hard to justify even within this space. Now, let's look at 2018. Perhaps I'm viewing it as a transitional year for gold and silver, partially because of the potential for a correction in crypto, a correction in bonds, a correction in stocks. Where do you see the silver and gold market headed in 2018?
I got still at my position, and all the the precious metals. It's kind of like I don't even check what is it, the Kitco app anymore. To be honest, I have to get reminded once or every few weeks to check that thing, and and I just hope that somehow these cryptos help free up the gold silver markets somehow. I don't know. Maybe people realize they don't need banks, and then they don't need the CME or something. So it would be great if the metals kind of find their way out of the little manipulated hole, if you will, that they're in, and go to the kind of market action we're seeing in crypto, where it's it's maybe a little supply and demandy or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you look at the crypto space, you'll never see silver rise 180% in 2 hours. That's just as we've seen in some of these crypto in these cryptocurrencies. Tron was up 800% in 4 days. And what's interesting is you'd say, well, that's because it's a small market. No, it's not, because if Tron went to $14 billion, that's the value of the global silver mining production. And the fact that it moves that fast, there's something. It's supply and demand, but it's unregulated, and the silver and gold market's not just unregulated; they are regulated and manipulated to the point where they trade within that range, and they have caps and collars so that if the price goes up a certain amount, they halt trading. If it goes down a certain amount, they halt trading. You don't have any of that in the crypto space.
No,
I don't even know if you got price discovery, but at least you got supply and demand. That if more people want to buy it, they'll just keep raising the price, and people just keep chasing the price. But so you see what sounds of what I hear from you and everyone else. Everyone wishes that the gold and silver will somehow be released from its chains, but they don't really expect it to.
Yeah, I mean that pretty much. It's just like it'll happen when it happened. If you have it, you put it in that proverbial hole and just wait for the day where maybe it might be when my daughter, who's 4, when she's 20 or something, they're able to at least kind of trade where somebody buys a ton or these multi-ton purchases from these countries should, you would think, affect the price of something that's coming out of the ground at a very small increments every year. But
it doesn't, though. You know that.
Yeah. So, I have a couple books in my closet where this guy wrote 2 books, Silver Explosion or Profits from the 70s, and pretty much he did an update in the 80s, and I was thinking to myself, that guy died waiting for silver to do what it should, mathematically and scientifically do, and inflation and et cetera, which would be, go up in price. And it literally never did.
Yeah. So, other than the spike in 2011, silver historically, though, has been a spike and dive commodity. Has never had the same store of value stability as gold, and that's partially because it's smaller. But it makes sense that cryptos are gambling and are speculative. You don't want to see that type of price movement in gold because then it wouldn't be a solid rock, so to speak. It'd be, I don't know, when something goes up 780% like Tron did in 3 days, you have to ask, no one knows what it is, and that's why they buy it. People know exactly what gold is. It's an element.
Right. But I think if gold was just allowed just to trade normal, it wouldn't be 5 years at about a range bound of what, 1,200 to 1,500-ish? Just like look at that little 5-year chart, and I'm like, that's just all the QE that's went out there, all the ECB, all the stuff that the Swiss National Bank is pumping out there buying Apple stock, all their money printing, the BOJ. If they would let the needle just move incrementally like it should, 3,000 gold, 5,000 people, that sounds fair. Not like 30,000, but kind of commensurate with, I don't know, just all the money printing that's been out there in the world, the debt.
Yeah, well, there's a chart. There's a chart that shows the money printed and the debt up to about 2011, 2012. Gold was moving up with, as you say, commensurate with.
Yep. Right.
And then it just stopped. When QE3 started, I thought, well, that's it. It's over. They've gone off the deep end. They're going to print so much money, and gold's going to go past 1,900. It's going to go to 3,000, 4,000. It's not going to go to 3 million. It's not going to. It's not like Bitcoin could do. But it should have risen, and it stopped. And you can see that convergence just stopped. The line just go in different directions. Yeah. And silver never even had that correlation to begin with. Silver kind of tracks gold, and then if it's in a bull market, it'll pass it. But so do you think this year, though, not breakaway or big gains or smash downs, do you think there'll be a gain this year in both of those metals?
You know what? I don't think so. And I guess in my little mind, I'm happy to be in a little crypto game, so it occupies that where I don't have to obsess over the gold hit past $17 from 87. So, we can play the crypto game to kind of keep our minds occupied. And, if gold or silver just breaks up a little bit, that's just like a bonus. And I still think, in my mind, they used to say, put 10% of your wealth in gold and silver. I'd tell all the, newly wealthy crypto people, have your plan B be a little physical metals. I mean, I would suggest it because, having a plan B is not a bad idea.
Well, definitely. I mean, gold and silver, especially gold, is not going to go to zero. Right. These cryptos where you're sitting on potentially 1,000% gains,
hundreds and thousands of dollars.
I mean, it can go down, and you could lose it in a bat of an eye. And and a lot of people, I don't think they realize that. They just insist that cryptos are the future. I always used to say that. A Maserati is a great car, but there's a limit to how much you pay for it. I mean, would you pay $50 million, $100, $200, $300 million for a Maserati? No, at some point, a Ford's a better value. Right? You're just not going to pay that much. So I think that's going to happen with the cryptos. I can't see. Now, I didn't expect this to last this long, and, how long do these things last? Maybe this is going to last a couple of years, and there's a chance to make money. But the question is, how can you get out in time?
Yeah,
I don't know.
There's one gentleman from Singapore. I think it's is it Silver Bullion .com. Gregor Gregerson. I interviewed him last year, and he, they accept Bitcoin for for gold and silver out of Singapore. They'll vault it. I guess there's a vaulting area around the Singapore airport, or that they kind of built up. How we all talked about over the past few years. Looking into that kind of company, if you're one of these crypto people who went from, I don't know, like $500 to 500,000 in 2017, and maybe we get another nice run in 2018. You better start thinking about some exit game, and whether it's property or paying off your house or buying another house outright. You got to start thinking about taking some off the table and getting some like hard stuff in your hands to have in case, like this whole Visa cutting off their crypto debit cards in Europe. These banks and Visa and all these guys that are in it together, central banks, they are gonna, it feels like they're coming. Yeah, they could cripple this thing for a few years until people figure out a way to circumvent these new sanctions.
The one place where the crypto people have made out really well are at a serious disadvantage is they are not used to and have never had to deal with having a lot of money. Now that brings, I suppose, someone to this video that says, well, what are you going to do when you have over $250,000 and you have to find a bank that'll cover your deposit? I thought, well, I want that problem. I'll spend the time to find 4 or 5 banks that'll take my $250,000 so I can get the FDIC insurance. But I think that is an issue because and that's what happens to lottery winners. They get their lottery winnings, and within a year or two they're broke because they don't know how to handle it. So what people do, I suppose, a lot of crypto experts, or I guess they're experts if they've been in it for a few years and they have literally millions, they don't know what to do when it comes out of the crypto system.
Right.
And I guess the safe thing would be, find bank accounts and find gold and find land, but that requires a different sophistication. That's real world stuff. You have to go out and look at property. It's not like clicking a mouse and moving in and out of Tether and Tron and whatever it else is. By the way, what do you make of Tether? Are you familiar with Tether?
Yeah, I mean, I remember once back last year, I'm like, wow, everything is crashing, but this USDT Tether thing, like, wow, I had no idea it's some, I don't know, made up something that's whatever tagged to the US dollar. I had no idea, but I do follow that Bitfinex persona on Twitter.
Right.
I asked him for an interview, but he's like, he pretty much said like he doesn't really want to talk too much. Like I think they think he might, they might kill him.
Well, it's interesting like, for people. What Tether is, it's supposed to be a cryptocurrency that instead of cashing out and getting dollars, you get these crypto tethers that are supposedly tethered to the dollar, and supposedly there's dollars backing these tethers. But supposedly, if you read the I haven't done it, but the Bitfinex guy has, and so have others. Yeah. The documents say that there's not necessarily anything there, and they don't owe you any dollars, and so people just assume it's like on faith that the tethers are worth a certain amount, and they're happy to trade in and out of them. But those are the types of things I think. Those are not black swans, but because they're known. But another Mt. Gox style collapse or something to do with one of these ice. Who knows? But I just see everything as it is a bubble. When people say it's not it's a cliche to say everything is a bubble. I'm tired of hearing it's a bubble, but it is at such a point where something can pop it, and I think it could get popped, but it could rise again. I mean, how many times has the Bitcoin bubble popped, would you say, in the last 4 years?
Right, and I like to say this to the crypto people. A lot of us precious metal people, we cut our teeth in some like those April 1st drive-bys, and it was 2011. It was bubbly with silver, and for 5 days in a row, the CME raised margins. And
right.
That thing. I mean, that's where that was almost like my first day on the stock market before 1987 or 1929. Like, hey, day one and day two, the world ended. So that's pretty much when I got into silver, and I'm thinking it's going to the moon, and boy, we blew up on the rock, on the launching pad. So
it looked like it was headed there. It got to 50, and it looked like it was on its way. And next thing you know, they raised the margin. It drops to 40, drops to 39, and basically it's been over since then. It's almost like when the Hunts brothers got nailed, they ended the silver price for 30 some odd years.
Yep.
And we're only
And
seeing the last 2 years it's creeped up just a bit, but I mean it's still under $20. And did you see there's a new discovery? I don't know how much credibility you give it. Coming out of China, 100 million tons they say they found in China, which I calculated out to be about 3.2 or 3.3 billion ounces, which is like 3 times the global annual silver mining production. So that now again, they have to take it out of the ground. They're not going to take all 100 million tons out in one day, and it'll probably all stay in China. So I don't think it'll have that much of an impact. And as you say, supply and demand has nothing to do with the price of silver in any event. I just throw that out there because I did see it. Now, where do you see, if any, politics in the United States or elsewhere, South Korea, North Korea, Japan, China, Russia, influencing the gold and silver prices, and or through regulation influencing the cryptos? Do you think there's going to be a clampdown on cryptos? Do you think there's going to be turmoil in the politics that'll boost gold and silver and maybe not boost cryptos? Where do you see the 2018 headed from the geopolitical perspective as it influences gold, silver, and cryptos?
Well, me being south of the equator, way over here, I don't get the I guess the day-to-day barrage of Trumpness from all media over there. I get this Aussie media, which is basically a little it's the same as in America, but just a lot less America in it. So it's I think the Aussie media down here, they pretty much parrot everything that's coming from the U.S. So they like to portray him as crazy and just they try to play up all the, I guess, the super negative things that are they might perceive coming from the White House. So they and pretty much Aussies, they're kind of like Americans maybe 10 or 15 years ago, where they believe everything the media says. Mm-hmm. So when they if the U.S. says that he's sexist or racist, they believe it. So when I tell them that I voted for him because I felt that's the only option I had, they're surprised. And I'm just like, hey, I used to work for the government, and I know what Hillary Clinton was doing at the State Department was that no one else could get away with at the lower levels, but her being protected, she got away with it.
Well, you see, what's happened just now is they have they're trying to reinvestigate her Clinton Foundation and a few other things, the handling of the email. So do you think that'll go anywhere?
Who knows, man? Donald's in there. If she was in there, it wouldn't go anywhere. When it comes to the elites, man, will they go anywhere? Will it go 5 years and nothing come out of it? Who knows? You hope that somebody goes to jail and hope they all go to jail from the tip top.
Right.
But usually the protected people get protected, and either they die or it times out, basically. So fingers crossed. Just like, will gold and silver ever just trade at fair value? Well, fingers crossed.
So it sounds like you think that politically nothing will happen that will impact the gold and silver markets.
Man, if it pretty much is like, if it happens, it happens. That's it. If you have some, you have it, and if it happens to happen, then woohoo, and then everybody else will be scrambling to try, to buy gold and silver.
Right.
But
now, on the on the flip side, for the cryptos, I can't think of anything that would be positive for the cryptos that isn't already priced in. Is there anything that could send these things even higher than you could possibly imagine?
Just more money coming into I tell you what, once Bitcoin hit 10,000, that's where the people who I guess never physically reached out to me started reaching out to me like, hey man, what's up with them cryptos? That was that big round number that people started paying attention, because I've been posting stuff on LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram, and everybody probably just whatever, and then somehow it crossed that 10,000 Rubicon, and now it's almost 20, and now people are talking about liquidating their stock portfolios towards it. And that's why these banks, even down here, I think the Aussie banks are real nervous. They cut off one of the exchanges in like a Poly or like PayPal type payments. Mm-hmm. There's basically four big banks down here, and I think internally they can see people are starting to liquidate their superannuations, aka 401ks or government TSPs, whatever your retirement accounts. They're starting to liquidate those things and put them into crypto, and I think they're starting to freak out, and that's why we're getting these exchange bans in their banking, or the Visa stopping the cards in the EU. So hopefully we can get this through the 2018 without some major coordinated central bank attempted crushing of the cryptos, which could throw us in a 2-year bear market or something until
Right.
like good entrepreneurs do, we find a way to get around people trying to hurt us.
Yeah, I think what's happening is I think they want to regulate it. They want the tax money. They want the jobs that come with it. I saw the Japanese were saying there's a wealth effect that's created by it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know what'll happen with all. I don't think they'll ever coordinate together to do something, but will be interesting to see. I think that they're all saying that it's not big enough yet that if it were to collapse, it would be a major issue. And I suppose they're right, because I guess when the housing bubble collapsed, it was worth trillions, right? I mean, that's rippled through the system. We're only worth about, I think the entire crypto space is what?
700
billion? Yeah, 750 million, a billion, which is
Yeah,
small
776.
potatoes. It's a few months worth of QE. So if that money were to collapse tomorrow, that wouldn't be a big deal. But if we see tenfold increases this year, like we saw last year, well, now you're talking $7 trillion. And now it's not small change anymore. So that'll be the thing to watch. Caldwell, thank you very much for joining me today. Can you let our listeners know where to find you on the C Sigma channel and online, or you're on Twitter as well?
Yep. I'm not on Facebook. I quit that 3 years ago and never went back, never looked back. But I am on YouTube. It's a C-Sigma Show, and on Twitter at C-Sigma Show.
And on Twitter?
Yep, at C-Sigma Show.
That's C Sigma Show. And then what about you on Gab at all?
I am, but it might be. I'm not very active on it. And I think I signed up for that like last year or two.
And a lot of people did, and then didn't go back.
Yeah. Even Steam, and I think I might be on it, but I actually found Steam kind of difficult to navigate. But that's just me. But yeah, it's pretty much just Twitter and YouTube.
No, I'd agree with you. I also had dabbled in Shoot. I still publish on Shoot, but I had published a lot on can't really think of the name of it anymore. VidMe, and they went out of business, so we're kind of stuck. I'm glad you don't. I don't use Facebook that much either. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. I hope to get you back on the show, or a couple of months, or sometime soon, to see how 2018 is shaping up. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you, Louis. See you later.